Hey, on this episode of Successfully Live, Rafael talks about the power of personal touch. He goes in to give examples of what he's done to build customer rapport, how he then went to scale those activities, and how it all starts with the handoff between sales and CS. It's a great episode. You're going to learn a lot.
When I get a new client, I like to make a handwritten note. I'm like, who writes those things anymore? Get a little handwritten note. If your company has a little swag, who doesn't like a shirt, coffee mug, you send it to them. And then, all of a sudden you get like, oh, thanks so much. I'm like, so awesome. And they go ahead and on social media post it and go like, I got a handwritten note. No, it's like lost art.
Welcome to another episode of Successfully Live, where we go and meet with customer success leaders of small teams based in Silicon Valley. So our goal is to get that tactical information about what they're actually doing to impact churn and increase upsells. I'm your host, Adam O'Donnell, the co-founder of Successly. Today, I'm super excited to be here with Rafael Martin. Thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
for having
in.
me. I'm excited.
Definitely. So, Rafael's been in customer success for over 4 years, specifically in tech, and he's worked for companies like Autodesk, On24, and most recently PartnerPath, where you were the senior customer success manager there. So it's going to be cool to dive in, like why you even got into customer success, and then just talk about the biggest things you found that have made impact on churn. Why customer success? Why did you even get into it?
I'm a people person. I just love. I get on the phones and I'm just joking with them and stuff, and I'm very personable. And then I always like to relate to the clients. So I remember one client I was talking to, he was getting married the same time I was, started the conversation, like, how's your wedding planning going? And I was always like, oh man, blah, 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 and I was like, oh, I feel you and all that stuff. And then you just kind of build that rapport and all that stuff, and you kind of build that friendship and client thing. So like when they do call you and all that stuff, it's just, you don't hesitate to help them out. And then when you call them like, hey, I really need, I need the assets to upload for this, for your program or whatever the case may be, and then it's like, sure, no problem, I'll get it to you, and you just build that friendship and all that stuff. And I consider it like dating. I would have met my wife, who's in the audience, but you can't see her. But it's like dating. I'm like, you're not going to get anywhere if you're just sitting on your hands, because I've sat around a bunch of customer success managers where they just, you don't pick up the phone and it's just email, and I'm like, what made me stand out from my last job at On24, my manager told me, he's like, you know what, I'm always listening to you on the phone. He's like, you pick up the phone. I'm like, I want people to emulate what you do and all that stuff. And I'm like, it's not that hard to pick up the phone. I think it's like a lost art.
But at the end of the day, the friendship, the personability piece that you're talking to is like, that's what fired you up about customer success. Right. And I know that most of the people that we're listening to are probably similar, because it's not just that you're not just shoving something down someone's throat or just trying to make them renew. Like, these are friends in some cases, in higher touch cases, and just looking at it like that is huge. It's just to get into some actual tactics. Like, are there anything that you've found that's made a particular big impact on churn with any of your past roles?
That initial beginning is just like first impressions has lasted. For me, I've been successful with it. It's just I'm always constantly learning. I'm always looking on the internet. I'm like, what are other people doing? Listening to the people. You pick and choose and you make it your own. And so for me, it's just like when I get a new client, I like to make a handwritten note. I'm like, who writes those things anymore? Get a little handwritten note. If your company has a little swag, who doesn't like a shirt, coffee mug, you send it to them. And then, all of a sudden you get like, oh, thanks so much. I'm like, so awesome. And they go ahead and on social media post it and go like, I got a handwritten note. It's like lost art. And so it's just that, to me, it's just that initial beginning. It sets the foundation.
That is really cool. Handwritten notes, like, take that away. We've been doing that for a little bit, and like, people are just like, what is that? Like, it's just like, I'm holding this thing in my hand and it takes 3 days to get there. That's a really, really good takeaway. Obviously not everyone can do that. So could you, because if you have too many customers, it's just not going to work. So could you kind of, how many customers were you managing when you were using that tactic?
I had about 30 clients. So, big clients from Oracle all the way down to the little startups and all that stuff. So, but for me, I was only dealing with like the main contacts for about 1 or 2 people. But, when sometimes, I would get handed clients, like they'd be already midway through being onboarded and all that stuff. So of course you can't really send something then. Yep. So all of a sudden it's like, so what do you do there? And again, it's just I think it's just conversations go a long way, and listening. I feel like a lot of these clients don't get listened to. It's just they're talking to you, and then it's just like, okay, sounds good, and we're gonna do this for you. But then it's like, did you really hear what they're saying? And then they get frustrated and all that stuff, and then it's just like it's good to listen and then repeat back what they said just to make sure they heard you. And I'm a big on following up. Like they're like, can you check on this and this and this? And like they won't ask me. Like I'll go check with engineering or something's wrong up with the platform. Like, hey, what's up with, Bob's platform? How's the bugs coming? Are they fixed and all that stuff? Not yet. Then I'll personally call Bob and be like, hey, I'll let you know. Just want to let you know we're still working on this. We haven't forgotten about you. They said they're still about 1 or 2 days out, but I'll keep you informed. And you just get a simple like, oh, thanks. Just a nice thank you, and like, so they feel like they're being taken care of and they're special, and like, they're not dumb. They know you have like 30 clients, but when you make them feel special, like you're the only one, and taking care of them, it goes a long way.
Man, this is cool because we haven't really dove into this piece with anyone else that we've talked to so far, and I really think it's just like the forgotten aspect, which is the human aspect, and making people feel special, and trying to do that in a scalable way.
Right.
So I mean, you've talked about first impressions, listening, and follow up, like the basics of business, but
right.
So many times they're forgotten. You've given us an example of first impressions, doing that written letter and being as personal. Could you give us some examples of like how you can scalably do follow-up? Because we know it takes a lot of time when you're on the phone with someone and you're trying to take notes and then you're writing that email afterwards. Is there anything that you found that was particularly helpful to make that more scalable?
So in the beginning, I create a ton of templates. I have templates created everywhere. It just makes your life so much easier. So I have a template made in my email, so I'm taking notes. So then after it's already created, I can just go in there and put in the bullet points. And then I send a follow-up email after our call and be like, this is what we talked about. I put and then next to it, I'll put like what the client has to do, and then what I need to do. So then we're both held accountable what's going on. But it's easy once you plug and paste in a template. If I have a weekly call, I have a template. It's just boom, done. Like post-call templates, boom, done. Onboarding. I create a PowerPoint for onboarding because I think today's world, the attention span is so short. Sometimes people don't get it when you're talking to them. So I create a PowerPoint because we're visual people. So they see visually what's being laid out, visually see a bullet point at the end, what's going on. Just clears things up. There's no confusion. That's what you're trying to avoid. I think that's what helps
and
a lot.
What are you using for your template? Any tool that you're using for that?
To keep organized, I use like Wunderlist is a big thing for me. Use Evernote too, and then if Microsoft Office actually works on Mac, which it doesn't sometimes. But if you do have a PC, you can create templates and they'll stay in there. But if not, I'll just go into Word and stuff, and I'll use Google Sheets a lot and all that stuff. Super simple. I can share it with other people, clients, and just keep things organized.
That's great. I mean, just really good tactics on like how to actually do this more scalably, getting those templates, follow them in there. And you said Wunderlist is the one that helps you with that.
That keeps me organized and it has everything in there.
Everything in one spot. Yeah. That's really cool. Is there anything about like this first impressions thing? I've had a lot of questions about that. And it's really just onboarding, but and this is for you doing first impressions. It's like a very high touch client. This is like when you only have 30 clients. This isn't if you have 10,000 clients. So I just want to make sure that people know, keep that in context. But can you kind of run through like your most recent first impression piece from like the very first time, like the way that handoff is, if you could kind of talk about that from sales and then to you 100% owning it?
Communication is huge. Always talk to your salesperson before you get on the call with the client. Like get how the feedback, how they are. Because I'm like, you got to know your audience. Because I'm like, I like to get on the call knowing like, hey, they're very easygoing and stuff. You can joke around with them. I'm like, okay, great. I can do a joke and stuff, kind of break the ice. Or like, hey, you're really talking to a CEO. Like, don't joke around. This is stay strict. So then, then if you have all your notes, it's like a football game. You go out there, you do game planning, you watch videotape and all that stuff. You go out there and you can, kick ass and dominate. I want to do the same thing. So I'll go talk to my salesperson, find out all the information I have of their client, names, contacts, everything, how, temperature, how they are, all that stuff. Then I'm well prepared. So when I get on the phone, I'm not caught off guard. I know how to talk to them. and then, it's just makes the transition so much easier.
Yeah. Is there any tool you're using for that? Like, and I'm just trying to like dive in the details of that. Like, are you going to their Salesforce account for that customer or that previous prospect, now customer, and saying like, let me dump all that and put it in a Google Sheet, or are you putting it, like, how are you organizing all this? I just want to.
Well, I use a notebook first when I talk to a salesperson, and then I do go into my Google Sheets, and then I still use Google, the Excel, it's a Google Sheets or Google Docs. So I use Google Sheets and put the clients in there, and I create point of contact. I know you can do that in Salesforce, but for my own method to my madness, I put point of contact, when they want to be implemented by, who's, any little notes that help me out, that, just helps me out, so when I get on the phone, I know how to deal with them. But I put all that in there. I research the hell out of everything. So I'll go on and look at their company, learn what their company is about, and all that stuff. And like, I think a lot of people don't do that. I feel like it's like, you're going to get on a call, here's your client, and then you just get on the phone and you're kind of finding out as you go, as opposed to like maybe doing your research ahead of time, and just do your due diligence. Just find out a little bit about their company and stuff, and then you can talk about it with them, and then they're like, it makes them feel good that you know a little bit about their company and what's going on. And I create a lot of Google alerts too. So then I get Google alerts about a company. So then you can like send them an email just out of the blue and be like, hey, I heard you got an award for best new software and stuff. I'm like, that's great news and all that stuff. And then they're like, oh, I'm glad you saw that. And I think it's just those little details and stuff. It's like, once you're married, you're not supposed to stop trying. I'm like, once they're on board or doing anything, like, don't stop trying. Like, I'm like, get them flowers once in a while.
Man, this is great. Like, you're talking the most basic things, and we all know these things, but we just don't always do them. And so, like, being able to know like how you're doing it is really cool. Another thing, I'm curious, just the way that you've presented how you are interacting with these people, like this hugely personable approach and sincere approach. How are you handling QBRs? If you were doing that in your last role, or when that renewal time comes, because I would imagine it's going to be a lot easier when they're more of a friend and you've been frequently communicating and following up. But I'm just kind of curious if you could dive into that.
I like to plan ahead. So, it's like I would send mid-month emails just to kind of like let them know how the usage is going, how their platform is going. And then I would just make my internal notes like, okay, things have not been going so great, or things are going great. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like, there's rain coming this weekend, you want to be prepared, like get your new windshield wipers and all that stuff. So before QBRs, just, arm yourself with everything you can. Okay, knowing like, okay, their numbers aren't doing so great, and like, like, what can I do? So then I try to help them ahead of getting before there. So, I'll send them articles, or, like if it's a platform like we're at On24, it's like, how do you use the webinar to the best ability? I'm like, they're not really using, let's say, a webcam. Webcam might go a long way to help them out. So I'll give them suggestions, and be like, hey, did you know, like, you can do this, and send them little articles and stuff to kind of help them out ahead of time. So hopefully by QBR time, things are starting to go up on the upswing, or like, they're kind of giving you good positive feedback. Like, hey, thanks for those articles. Things have been actually helping and all that stuff. And I'm like, look, it's shown.
It's not about the QBR. It's about what you're doing before.
Right.
The QBR is basically what you're saying. And there's nothing that I hate more than having to be in that situation where you're just like we haven't done a lot before. It's like, you had too many clients. You just kind of didn't see this one coming. And there's nothing fun about that. Like, just kind of wrapping up, is there any one piece of advice that you'd really like to have given yourself when you first started with customer success?
Everything is a team effort. And so what I've found out, there's a big disconnect is from sales passing it on to customer success. Sometimes sales wants to make the sale and close the sale, and they don't really know the software. They have a way to like showcase it. I don't think they truly know the software sometimes, and they'll oversell the client something just trying to close the deal. And then when it hands over to the customer success manager, sometimes your hands are tied, or you're supposed to do this huge project, and it's not really helping the client out in the long run. It makes sense for the sales. Of course, they're making the sale, and all that's great, but it may not be the best fit for the client. I'm like, if sales actually listen to the client, what they need, sell them what they need, and then, hand off, and it's the best fit, I think in the long run, it helps the client out, because then you're selling them exactly what they need. They know what they're getting. Customer success manager's hands aren't tied. All of a sudden, you're expecting this huge thing, and I'm like, that's not what we do. Now you got to do all this customization, and then you might be, then we only have like 10 custom hours, but now this might cost 20 or 30. Now in the end, client might be paying more. And, that's a bad experience from the get-go. But if you tell the client what they need, and then from our perspective, then you can start guiding them. Like, you know what? I'm like, maybe you might, like make upsells a little bit easier too. Because I'm like, hey, you know what? Did you know we have, like at On24, did you know you can add webcams and stuff? Or, or this piece of part of the software, you guys aren't utilizing that. Maybe you might want to do that and stuff. And then it helps in the long run, I think, for the client.
Things getting oversold are a reason why there's churn.
Right.
All the time. I don't know what percentage, but I would imagine it's a lot. Is there any piece of thing that you've been able to do when someone, that they're oversold? Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, it's a team effort there, because that's when you like talk to the salesperson, like, what were you doing? And then all of a sudden it's like you're talking to engineering. I'm like, can we do this? And the customization hours. And then all of a sudden you got to like go on there and tell the client like, hey, and then, like they're expecting it, and then they promised them in 2 weeks. So then all of a sudden that's when you're going above and beyond and helping them out. I'm like, you still got to do it, right? So then you're going above and beyond, and, somehow it does get done. But, all that stuff could have been prevented from the get-go.
Definitely. And sometimes that might not be the right move for the company to make that custom change.
Sometimes I like to ask clients, I'm like, hey, what's working, what's not working, just to get a little bit of feedback. What would you like to see from the platform? And then I can compile a little email to engineering. I'm like, hey, this is what I found that some of the clients are looking for. Because I'm like, they don't know. They just get tickets through Salesforce or Zendesk or whatever the case may be and stuff, but they don't. That's what I was doing at PartnerPath. It's like the engineering team was doing stuff through Zendesk, but they don't know how they were doing or the client's happy. So then I created a little, I think 5 questionnaires, sent it to the clients and said like, are the tickets being resolved in time? Are you happy with our service? What can we do different? And then like, what would you like to see moving forward? And now they were getting feedback like, oh, hey, great, we're doing a good job and we're responding to tickets in a timely manner and stuff. When they, they might have been thinking like, are we taking too long?
Basically, you're sending a questionnaire to only people who gave tickets through Zendesk?
Yeah, as soon as the Zendesk ticket came in and then it was resolved, I would be like, hey, I'm like, just want to let you know this has been resolved. And if you take I'm like, can you do me a huge favor? I would, like on your coffee break, while you're just enjoying a nice cup of coffee, can you just fill out this questionnaire? It's only 5 questions. Just want to get some feedback for our engineer team. And then most of the time, and like if you have like a good rapport with somebody, and it's just like, sure, no problem. Like coffee break, click, 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 boom, done. I'm like, I believe in the KISS system. Keep it simple, stupid. So you don't want to over bombard them, but it's just that, and then you get the feedback, and then I was able to send it to the to head of engineering and be like, hey, here's the feedback, like do with it what you will, but I just want you guys to know like how you guys are doing answering tickets for clients, because if they don't know, I'm like, oh, what if they were responding like too slowly and stuff? And then I'm like, how do we better our service? So I'm like, it's always adding value and service to your software.
Man, and adding value, like that's why they hired you, of course. That is really neat. And I think a lot of people can take away from that. And I love how you laughed about the NPS thing, and everyone uses those 3 letters now. Yes. It's like the thing, but having this tactical way of like, hey, like the people who ask questions, like how well did we do? And let's share that internally. Let's be the customer advocate within the organization. Yeah, I think that's great. Is there any piece that you could give me on NPS, kind of your view on it or how you put it in context maybe?
I know a lot of clients will see it and start rolling their eyes or like another survey. And so I think it's how you word it in the email and all that stuff. That's why I like to, you get a good rapport with them and all that stuff. Or by the end of like onboarding, you should be in a good place. So, that's why I always like, if I'm good standing with them or whatever, I'll just, like I said in the sentence, I'm like, hey, like I said, during your coffee break or something, can you just fill this out real quick? And I'm like, it would help me. And I guess Tom Cruise said it best, right? And Jerry Maguire, help me help you. So I'm like, same thing. I'm like, help me help you. I'm like, you just, fill out this form, give me some feedback. In the long run, it'll help you as well. And then I think it'll just make a nice cohesive unit, with me, with you, our company, and that's what you want, right?
You're really just empathizing with the with the client better. And I love the little line of like, during your coffee break, like I realize that you're busy, but I know you take a second break and this will only take that much time.
Right.
Like it just, that triggers our brains in a way like, oh, I could probably do that real quick.
Right.
As opposed to, here's another thing that you can stack on top of your list of to-dos today that you're not going to get done anyways.
Right.
I think that's great. Just kind of in conclusion, what is there any resources that you would suggest people to go to? Like basically, where do you go to learn?
Google. I research everything. I think it's just fun. When you do take a break or whatever, I just look up stuff. I'll put in like customer success blogs or ideas and all that stuff, and then you just kind of fun and pick and choose and just find. And and then don't stop learning from there too. Like if you find a favorite book, I just got this book from Amazon on how to work out 3 hours a week. And but some of these guys are busy with kids, families and stuff. Like, where do you find the time to work out? But you can still get in shape 3 hours a week and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, why can't you apply that to the world of customer success? I'm like, you're so busy, you choose little things from those books to utilize in the world of customer success. You want to make the customer happy and successful. And so I'm like, rely on your teammates. I believe in like helping each other out because I'm like, you want to make the whole team, the department, the company better. And so I was the one walking around the office like, hey, I have this issue with this client. I'm like, well, how did you handle it? I'm like, can I get some feedback? Because I'm like, it's always like I said, never stop learning. Or I might overhear somebody when they get off the phone and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm like, can I just give you, not to overstep, but I'm like, I had a similar client. I'm like, maybe you should try this, this, and this. And then I'm like, it helps them out, helps you out, makes the whole team better.
I think that's really cool. This has been great, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming over here. And,
it's been fun. It's been exciting.
Yeah, it's been great. And another great episode of Successfully Live. Look for us on the next one.